To set up a game, each player takes their set of starting money, tokens, and bidding cards, sets their bidding cards and money aside, and puts their tokens on the central board. The tokens for each player are 6 small cubes, 1 large cube, and 1 disc. The disc goes at each player's space. It's a way to let other people see what color you are. The large cube is used to count how many times you've looped the power track. The small cubes are arranged as follows. 1 cube is placed at random on the tiebreak track. 1 small cube is placed above the power track with the larger cube. Everybody starts with 0 power. 1 small cube is placed on the first space of each of the finance, technology, and culture tracks. And finally, 1 cube on the organization track. The money supply should be placed where each player can easily access it, as should the stack of Mogul cards. Finally, the white season marker goes on the first space of the season track. Begin by dividing the Mogul deck into roughly even parts per player. Give each player a stack. From that stack, the player is going to pick 1 special agenda to be their hidden agenda for the game, and 2 small cap businesses which will form part of the starting round of play. Here are the 2 small cap companies and the special agenda that the red player chose. Normally all of these would be kept hidden. The special agenda goes in the player's area, and the 2 small cap companies are set aside to go on top of the shuffled Mogul deck to form the first 2 rounds of play. Now each player has selected a hidden agenda and 2 small cap companies. Again, the small cap companies initially selected would normally be hidden. The remaining Mogul cards are put in a central stack and will be shuffled together. Then all of the initially picked small caps will be shuffled together and put on top. Now we're ready to start playing. Each round of Mogul starts with 1 Mogul card per player flipped over into a central area. These are the cards that the players will be bidding on. They choose a bidding card to bid for their pick order for the round. Whoever plays the highest bidding card gets first pick, second highest second pick, and so on. Ties and bids are resolved by the tiebreak track. Whoever is higher on the track gets to go first in the tie, but then moves to the end of the track, though ahead of anybody else who already won a tie this round. Mogul uses a blind bidding system, which means everybody chooses their bids before any of the bids are revealed. Once all the bids are selected, then everybody reveals them at the same time. Players choose their bids based on what cards are available, whether there's anything they particularly want or want to avoid, what cards they already have in play, so what synergies they might want to build, what special agendas they have hidden or open in their reserves, and all of that is balanced against the action that the bid provides. The bid action and the selection and use of the Mogul card for the round can happen in either order. In this case, red is going for some quick early money by using their 5 bid. The red player can pick one of the companies available, pay the money to start it, and then immediately use the 5's ability to activate it to generate money. The 2 bid is always a popular first round play. It lets you pay a little bit of money to raise one of your finance, technology, culture, or organization tracks. The 3 bid played by black is an interesting choice. The special ability of the 3 doesn't usually come into play the first season of the game, so black is using it to try to get a bit of a pick order edge over the people who are likely to bid 2s. Red is going first this round. They decided to pick and start the Gold Union, so that cost them $5, but then they immediately used their special ability of the 5, which lets them activate currently one of their companies to generate money. If you look at Gold Union, you'll see it generates $3, so they spent 5, but then immediately got back 3. Green and yellow both bid a 2, but yellow is ahead on the tiebreak track, so yellow gets to pick first, and then goes to the end of the tiebreak track. After the first round of play, all players have managed to raise their finance 1, which is good, because finance is usually important early in the game. Yellow managed to get their technology up a little bit, and everyone but red also managed to raise their culture. We had a little bit of shift in the tiebreak track. Yellow won a tie, and so went to the end, moving everybody else up 1. All players started their first company, giving them a little bit of infrastructure. Players have varying amounts of money left, depending on the cost of the company they've started and what else they did that first round. For example, using the special ability of the 2 costs extra money. and so green and yellow are a little short on cash compared to black and red. Bidding cards that have been used are set aside face up until the start of the next season. The second and subsequent rounds proceed in a very similar way. The Mogul cards are revealed, and the players make bids, and the bids are revealed and resolved. At the end of the second round, things have spread out a little bit more. Black and yellow both managed to get up to 4 on the finance track, which means their action value for finance goes from 1 to 2. That means when they play their 5 bid, they can activate 2 companies for money instead of just 1. Red and green both managed to produce their first power of the game. There was a little bit more shifting on the tiebreak track when both yellow and black played their 5s. Green generated a power by using their 3 bid. Green has a technology action value of 1 for their skill level of 1, and green managed to pick up in the first round a company that actually has power dividends, so they were able to activate that company with their 3 and immediately generate a power. Red acquired a power by playing their 4 bid. There are 2 dollar amounts at the bottom of each season track space. The larger amount on the left is how much power costs per point at the end of the season. The smaller number on the right is how much power costs when you use the actions on your culture track by playing your 4 bid. For the first 2 seasons, culture power is free. Green did not have enough money to start the company that they picked this round, so that company went into their reserves. The first 2 rounds of the first season are all guaranteed to be small cap companies, which means 2 things. First, everybody meets the requirements to start them, and second, there's nothing bad out there. From the 3rd round and on through the rest of the game, anything goes. For round 3 in this game, we have an interesting mix. A medium cap company on the left, which nobody can start but is worth a lot of money to flip. An event. Events are bad, you don't want events to happen to you. And then 2 extra actions. Extra actions can be used right away, or they can be placed in your reserves. Any extra action that's in your reserves may be used on your turn in any later round. When you get stuck with an event, that event happens immediately. This is an interesting round 3. That medium cap out there means it's a good opportunity for somebody to pick up some cash pretty quickly in the course of play. The only way to make money during the course of a season is to use your 5 bid to immediately activate some companies to make money, or to pick one of the companies that's up for bid and flip it for some quick cash. Here we also have an event which generally you want to avoid, although this early in the game it's probably not that bad an event. This particular one, Hacksword, temporarily lowers your technology skill. And then we have 2 extra actions, which are both pretty good ones. It'll be interesting to see how people bid this out. Black decided for some quick cash. Based on what everybody else had already bid, he figured a 6 was likely to win. Red decided they didn't care too much. This is pretty much going to be a throwaway round for them. They're just getting rid of a low bid value card. They're probably going to get stuck with the event, but this early in the game that's not actually wholly bad. Events that hurt your skill levels, well, it's not good to have your skill level lowered, but they come with a little bit of a money to offset the pain. Green really needs some cash to get their second company into play, and they figured a 5 was pretty likely to go high in the round. Green would love to be able to get that medium cap and flip it, but if not, the 2 extra actions are both pretty good. Yellow didn't really want the event, so they bid high enough to feel that they're probably not going to go last, and it never hurts to use your 4 bid in the first season at some point just to pick up that quick free power. When things adjust skill levels, like the Hacksword event or the 6 bid, generally you don't change the actual position on the track, you just leave the card easily visible so that you know that change is in effect. The Hacksword event lasts 3 rounds. That's tracked by putting $3 on the event card, and at the beginning of each round, you get to take one of those dollars and add it to your supply. So there's a little bit of offset for getting Hacksword. At the end of a round where there are no dollars on the event card, then the event goes away. Green needs to start thinking about their space in the reserves. They already have 2 cards in reserves, and only 3 spaces available at their current organization level. One of the cards in the reserves is a company. The only way to get a company out of your reserves is to start it using your 1 bid or some extra action, or to flip it using the 7 bid. Extra actions and special agendas can always just be discarded from reserves to make space, but generally you don't want to do that. If you must get rid of a special agenda from your reserves, the preferred way to do that is to use your 4 bid, which lets you cash it in for power immediately as opposed to waiting until the end of the game. Black used their 6 bid this round. The special ability of the 6 is a temporary 1 level boost in any of finance, technology, or culture this round and the next. You can choose separate skills each round if you wish. The 6 bid is tipped to the side in the used bids pile to indicate that it's still available to be used for a bonus the following round. At the end of the following round, that will be collapsed into the standard stack. Yellow is doing pretty well for the 3rd round of the game. They managed to have 2 companies started, so that increases their skill levels and gives them some infrastructure to play with. They managed to pick up an extra action in their reserves, and they've used their 2, 4, and 5 bids. The 4 and 5 are nice to use early because it means you're making use of those companies and skill levels that you have. And the 2 bid means that they've been able to pay money to raise one of their tracks. They even managed to have a little bit of cash left over. Here's what the board looks like after the end of the 3rd round. Not a lot of movement on the tracks, but a little bit of shuffling in the tiebreak order. And up next to the Mogul pile, you can see the face-up card that was flipped this round. That's just the discard pile. There are enough Mogul cards in the deck that you'll never have to reshuffle them and go through them again. Once a card is discarded, it's just gone. Here are the cards up for bid in the 4th round of the 1st season. We have a special agenda in the mix here. Picking up special agendas is very important because you pretty much need a few to win the game, but they also take up space in your reserves. We have another event, and we have a medium cap company, which sells for a reasonable amount of money, and we have a small cap company, which means people have the skills to start it right away, and it has a bonus ability of giving you 1 extra organization. That means this company doesn't take up space. It takes up 1 space to play it, but then it gives you an organization which immediately adds another space. Only 1 player has enough money on hand at the moment to be able to start huge homes. And there are some interesting decisions to make about how much players want given cards, how much they want to avoid that event, and what else they've got going on in their hand and their infrastructure at this point. Now here are the bids for round 4. Looks like green and yellow are primarily concerned about which cards are available. They're trying to get specific cards, or maybe just especially to avoid the event. And red and black are more concerned about the actions on their bid cards. They're both content with the idea that they might end up with the event, they don't think it's going to hurt them too much, and they want to make sure that they get that action played this 1st season. Green is making an interesting gamble here. It's pretty important to try to get out 2 companies before the end of the 1st season, so that when dividends time comes, you have 2 companies that are generating income for you. Green still has not played their 1 bid, so if they manage to somehow pick up enough money this last round of the season, while still going last, they could get that extra company into play. The extra action they picked up the previous round, called Stealth Startup, basically lets them get a company started quickly and easily, assuming they meet all of the other requirements. They don't have to take any extra actions to get it into play. Green is sort of playing for the long game here, and hoping that they'll get lucky on the last round of the season and maybe be able to get that extra small cap company into play. Yellow managed to pick up Huge Homes, which has an organization bonus, but unfortunately didn't have quite enough money to get it started this round. Red managed to get their 2 played this season so they could raise one of their tracks, and they were also high enough up on the tiebreak track they did not get stuck with that event. Black got stuck with the event, but at least managed to get their 2 played and were able to use its special ability to raise one of their tracks. And a little bit of movement on the board tracks. Red won that tie on the 2 bids, and so went to the end of the tiebreak track. And Red also managed to have enough money so they could raise their organization by 1 level. And Black spent their 2 action to raise their technology by 1 level. Black is the only one who has enough money still to be able to start a company, so they bid high to try to win that 1 company before the season ends. Red doesn't really care. This is generally going to be a round of relatively low bids because people are more concerned about the action on the bid card since all of the cards up for bid are decent. Red doesn't have any companies that they want to start from their reserves, so the action on the one bid is useless, but having the one bid in your hand at the end of the season isn't worth any extra money. So Red's basically taking the opportunity to not hurt themselves and make one more dollar in dividend time. Green is making sure to get their 4 bid played before the season ends. They were hoping for a slightly different mix of cards coming up, but still it's not too bad. And a 4 bid should at least give them their pick of the extra actions. Green was pretty sure that Black was going to bid high so that they could pick up that Headblast company and get it started. Yellow is likewise making pretty much a throwaway bid, but Yellow cares a little bit more about which extra action they get, and so they decided to bid their 3 instead of their 1. It cost them $1 more at dividend time, but they felt it's worthwhile in order to be able to get their choice. Here's how things are looking at the end of the 5th round. Black managed to pick up 2 more spaces on the culture track, and Green managed to pick up another power. Now the season ends, players can process their end of season activities at the same time. If order of play does matter at the end of the season, for example if one player wants to see what another player does before they make a decision, use the tiebreak track to resolve that. Whoever's first in the tiebreak track has to make the decision first. For a player to figure out their dividends, all of their companies produced everything in their dividends sections. So Red is getting a total of $6 from Red's 2 companies, plus the player earns dividends from all of the bid cards that they have remaining. So Red earns another $7 from 3 of the bid cards, and then the 9 bid presents an interesting choice. Red can either take another $5 or instead spend some of their money to raise one of their tracks. Red decided to spend some money to raise their organization 1 level, leaving them with $12 to start the next season. Then they get all of their bid cards back, and they're good to go for the next round. Green didn't manage to get quite the company infrastructure started by the end of the 1st season, but at least the company they have is also producing power. So Green gets $2 from their company and 1 power from their company, and then at least $5 from their remaining bid cards, and Green's been feeling a little cash tight lately, so Green decides to take the $5 from the 9 instead of raising a skill level. Yellow has a fairly typical situation for the end of the 1st season. They have 2 companies, each of which is giving them $2 of dividends, and they have 2 high cards, their 9, and their 1 left over at the end of the season. So they're getting at least $9 and then either another 5 or spending some of that 9 to raise one of their skill levels. Yellow looks at their tracks on the board and decides that since they have an investment extra action and a little bit of money in reserves, they can afford to use that 9's ability to raise one of their skill tracks. Black is in pretty good shape, having managed to get 3 companies in play before the end of the 1st season, so they're getting dividends from all 3 of them. So $6 in dividends from the companies, plus at least another 4 from their remaining bidding cards. When Black looks at the board and their various skill tracks, they can see that they're actually doing pretty well on the skill tracks. They're getting close enough to start thinking about maybe being able to start a mid-cap company soon. They just need to boost up a couple of their skills maybe 1 or 2 more times and then they can do it. Getting to the mid-cap companies first gives you a pretty good leg up on the competition. So, Black decides to forego that extra money from the 9 and instead raise their technology level. So here's how the board looks at the end of the 1st season. All players decided not to buy power. Since the price of power is the same for the 1st and 2nd season, nobody ever buys power for the 1st season. Black is doing really well on the skill tracks. Yellow is also doing fairly well on the skill tracks. Black and Yellow both managed to get up to the 2nd action potential in finance. That's going to help them this coming season. Red isn't doing great on the skill tracks, but is already up to level 3 organization. That means they don't have to worry about running out of room in terms of the number of companies they can run, and soon they'll have more space in their reserves too. But Red really needs to think about getting those skills up there soon. Green is lagging a little bit behind. They only managed to get 1 company started this 1st season, although they did manage to get ahead on the power track because that 1 company they started produced power dividends. Green is also playing a little bit of a longer game. They invested in some things that they hope will pay off maybe towards the end of this season or the beginning of the third season. And this is what the whole playing table looks like at the end of the first season. Red has a pair of companies started and a pair of cards in reserve. Green has just one company started and 3 cards in reserves, so green is full up on the reserves already, but they have plans to get some of those things going soon. Yellow has 2 companies started and also 3 cards in reserves, but one of their reserve cards they're planning to start as soon as they can, another one they can cash in for money very easily, and the third one is actually a kind of extra action that gives them extra space in their reserves if they need it. So they might look full up at first glance, but they're actually doing alright. Black has 3 companies started, so they're in great shape infrastructure-wise, but they need to start thinking about their long game a little bit. They don't have any cards in reserve, so they have fewer options this coming season. All players get all of their bid cards back. The season counter moves down to Season 2, and then you're ready for the next season to begin.